Hey everybody, it's Kurt. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dig into a new feature in NeoFly called Homebase. Homebase is a free expansion to the Airlines and Pilots modules with NeoFly. So if you have that and you have version 4.5 or higher of NeoFly, you're good to go. What Homebase does is it gives you a way to place a custom airport anywhere in the world to serve as your personal airfield. You can do any of 3 different sizes. You can choose grass strip, dirt, hard surface. You can have runway lighting or an ILS if you want. You can even set up a personal seaplane base on your favorite lake or fjord or anywhere else you might like to do it. You can add facilities to your airport like an office, a maintenance shop, fuel, a parking lot, and each brings its own perks to your company. Since NeoFly is going to need to build an airport in Flight Simulator, there are going to be a couple extra steps when we first set this up. Some of it's going to be new to you, but don't worry, none of it's hard and I'll walk you through it. Once you're in NeoFly, you're going to find this new option under the Assets icon. This one used to be called Staff in previous versions of the software, so if you're wondering what happened to that, now you know. And at the top, you're going to see this new icon for Homebase. Click on that and you're into the main screen for your new airport. I want to point out here that what I'm showing you is not the final version that you're going to get. This is a pre-release. I know for sure that the prices shown here are not going to be the final prices. They're set to be very cheap so that the testers can easily do what they need to do. Real pricing will most likely be quite a lot higher. Some of the user interface is still changing also, so don't be surprised if your version looks a little different than this, but the basics of what we're going to talk about shouldn't change. The part that I think most people are going to need a little help with is enabling the Microsoft Flight Simulator SDK. SDK just means Software Developer Kit, and for those of you that aren't developing mods for Flight Sim, which I assume is probably most of you, this is all going to be new. And it might seem a little intimidating. But what we're doing here is just opening up the basics so that NeoFly can put your new airport into the sim world. This is the same process that a scenery developer would use to create a custom airport for you. And it doesn't actually change anything in your Flight Simulator install. It's just going to use the SDK tools to create the airport, and then it's going to put a copy of that airport into the community folder, just the same as you would do if you were installing some custom scenery. If you ever want to remove the airport, you can just delete it in NeoFly, and NeoFly will go take it out of your community folder, or you could go to your community folder and remove it yourself. This is just exposing the tools that NeoFly needs to make that happen. So to do that, you're going to open up Flight Simulator, and you're going to go to the Options menu. Under Options, you're going to find the Developers button. Click that, and then set Developer Mode to On. Once you do that, you're going to see these new menu options show up at the top of your screen. If you've never used this feature, poke around a little bit. There's some pretty interesting stuff in there. But for now, go under Help, and then under Downloads, you're going to find SDK Installer Core. You're going to want to select that. And that's going to start a download, which will probably go to your download folder. Once you have that downloaded from Microsoft, you'll run through its install just like any other Windows installer. Accept the terms, click Next. On this screen with the list of selections, just don't select anything at all and click Next. And then finally, just click Install. It may ask for administrator approval to install it into Windows, so just click Yes on that, and then you're done. Once you've done all this, you should have a new folder in your boot drive in the root directory for MSFS SDK. So most likely it's going to be C:\MSFS SDK. And that's probably the last you're going to really need to worry about the SDK at all. Although there are a couple things I'm going to touch on in a few minutes that might bring you back into here. So suppose you have an idea where you want your new airport to be. Just be aware you need to be about 3 miles from the nearest airport in Flight Sim, but once you have your location decided, all you need to do is load up Flight Sim at some nearby airport, and once you're in your plane, just hit Y on your keyboard. That's going to put you into slew. You may want to be sure that you're not running NeoFly in the background right now, just in case you do anything that damages your airplane, because if NeoFly sees that, it's going to consider it a crash, and we don't want to hurt your career. In slew mode, you can use your numeric keypad to move left, right, forward, and back, and you can control your altitude with F1 to go down and F4 to increase. Press F4 till you're a safe height off the ground, and then use the numeric keypad to slew your airplane to the location where your new airport's going to be. Once you're there, you can press F1 till you're down near the ground and get yourself positioned right where you want the center of your airport to be. You may also want to position your aircraft pointing in the direction where you want your runway to face. The 1 and 3 keys on your keyboard will rotate your plane in yaw side to side. Once you've done that, make a note of your magnetic heading. You're going to want to know that so you can set your runway in NeoFly. If you still have dev mode on, you still have that menu at the top. So go up there and in the debug menu, look for display position. This will show your exact latitude and longitude in Flight Simulator and your mean sea level elevation in meters. This is the information you're going to need. You'll want to copy these and paste them into Notepad or write them down or whatever. When you copy the altitude, remember you don't need the M on the end of it. Now go back to NeoFly and we can copy and paste our latitude and longitude into the appropriate boxes on the Homebase screen. And you're going to do the same thing with altitude. Remember, if you copied that M, don't put it in this box. And then click the See Result on Map button and it'll show you roughly how your airport's going to look. Here I'm showing the different runway sizes just to show that it gives you everything you need to know. Sorry, I forgot that Notepad window was in view. And you can see we can set the runway to get the result we are after. I noticed here that the end of my runway is a little close to that seasonal creek there. So you can fine-tune your location by right-clicking the map to reset the center point of your airport. You could pick your airport location from the map this way without ever getting into Flight Sim and doing all that slewing that we did. But you really do need to go into Flight Sim to get the accurate altitude from that debug menu to really have it correct. The altitude field in NeoFly does have that little web lookup button, but it's often not accurate and you'll get weird results. So I find slew in the simulator to be the best method. This next part is important if you're going to upgrade to an ILS at your airport in the future. It's not important for bush fields or grass strips or float plane bases or anything like that. But for an ILS, you need to know the location's magnetic deviation. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the concept, it's just that the Earth's magnetic North Pole is not the same as its true North Pole. So depending on where you are on Earth, if you're using a magnetic compass, you need to correct for whatever the variation is at that point. It's easy to do and it's on all the charts. A good free option is SkyVector. Using SkyVector, I can use the latitude and longitude that we put onto our notepad earlier to find the exact location on our charts. Then I just need to find the nearest isogonic line, and these tell you your magnetic deviation at that place. On the US charts, these are shown as dashed magenta lines, and they'll have a correction value printed on them at regular intervals. So for our location, you can see that we're near enough to 13 degrees and 30 minutes. When speaking in degrees and minutes, all you need to know is that minutes are just like minutes of time. 60 minutes makes 1 degree, just like 60 minutes makes 1 hour. So 13 degrees and 30 minutes is the same as 13.5 degrees or 13.5. So that's what we're going to put into NeoFly. Degrees of deviation to the east should be entered as a positive number, and degrees going west would be a negative. With all that set up, should you add an ILS to your field in the future, everything should be all set. And once everything's done, you can click the Compile and Install button here in NeoFly. You want to make sure that Flight Simulator is not running when you click this button. And that's going to kick off a program called FS Package Tool, and that's from the MSFS SDK. And if all goes well, you'll get a success message, and then you can get right into Flight Simulator and check that everything is how you want it. If you get a failure message, hang on a few seconds here and we'll come back around to some solutions you might try. No matter how wrong it goes in this process, it's not going to damage your Flight Simulator installation. But assuming you got the success message, you can now start up Microsoft Flight Simulator and go to your new airport. You should be able to go directly to it from the world map screen by searching for NeoFly. Have a look around your new airport and make sure it's exactly the way you want it. If it's not, close Flight Simulator, go back to NeoFly, and you can make adjustments. Once you've got everything the way you really want it, looks good in Flight Simulator, then you're going to click the Verify button in NeoFly. Once you click Verify, all the expenses for the build are going to be charged to your NeoFly career, and you'll have your new airport. But make sure you're very happy with everything is before you click Verify, because once it takes that money, you're not getting it back. Once your airport is built, it's just like any other airport in the world. You can set your airline hub here, you can assign your AI pilots here, you can fly any mission types from your personal airfield. It's pretty nice if you want to have a little seaplane operation at some little lake or fjord that you love. Alright, let's talk about what to happen if anything goes wrong. If you had any errors in your compile, there's really no need to worry about it. We'll just have a look at them and we'll see if we can sort them out. None of it's going to cause permanent damage to your Flight Simulator. If you got a bunch of red lines showing up in that compile window, you can go have a look at those, and what you might discover is that they are permission problems. In my case specifically, what was happening is it's trying to compile the files into the NeoFly install folder, and on my machine, that's managed by Windows, and because of that, the program didn't have permission to write anything into the folder. So since NeoFly doesn't need to be a secure folder, I just changed the permissions and reran it successfully. Another option would be to move your NeoFly installation to a folder with less strict rules. rules. There are a couple other weird issues that can come up, and one of the easiest ways to avoid most of them is to go into your Flight Simulator SDK folder. That'd be that C/MSFS SDK, and then from there go into Tools, and then the Bin folder, and you're going to locate FS Package Tool. Right-click that app and go to Properties, then the Compatibility tab, and set the Run this program as administrator option. That's going to cause a Run as admin pop-up to appear anytime you do your compile from NeoFly, and then you would just select yes. That'll prevent a lot of the little errors that can happen in the compile process because of permissions things that, Windows. The other thing that has been seen is some people who have the Microsoft Store version of Flight Sim get an error like these. If you see these, there's no reason to worry about it. Just click OK and be on your way. Go ahead and start up your sim next time and everything should work just fine. On my machine, I noticed, and I'm running the Steam version, so I don't know if this is going to happen to other Steam users, that the first time I ran the SDK and did a compile, Flight Simulator comes up in this weird oversized window or otherwise has trouble drawing its screen. If this happens, just let it get all the way through to the main menu and then close it. You can force it closed from Task Manager or whatever you need to do, but I would let it get all the way to its menu screen before you do that. After that, just reboot your computer and it will be fine the next time you launch Flight Simulator. You do need to do that reboot though. I've tried restarting Flight Sim multiple times and it always acts the same way until I do the reboot, and then it's fine. Anyhow, that's it for this one. I hope it helps you to get your NeoFly Homebase up and running. Now that you have it, it's just like any other airport, so you should know exactly what you need to do in NeoFly. Also, while I'm happy to answer your questions and discuss this feature in the comments here, please remember that I'm not NeoFly support and I don't work for them. So if you do need support, visit their Discord, which will be linked down in the video description. I hope you've enjoyed this one and that I've earned your subscription or a like. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.